Okay, so welcome everybody to this session on diversity, status quo called, and the meaning is of course to change any status quo that needs to be changed. This session is arranged as a collaboration with the wonderful Haugesund Film Festival and Nordisk Film TV Fond, which I work for as the CEO. We have so wonderful panelists here, so let's start with introducing them, and please, we will go in this order. So first, we start with Hamy Ramezan. Yes. From Finland and also from other places. We will hear more about it later. And Hamy is a writer-director. Elisa is interesting because you are both a writer and a producer. I don't mean that you are not interesting, but Elisa Fernanda Pirir, and you have roots in Norway and Guatemala. Let's come back to that. Silje, this is interesting also, because if we talk about Silje Riise Næss, you have roots in at least Norway, but now you work for the Danish Film Institute. And welcome also. And Helen Ahlsson, whom you all saw maybe at the co-production pitches, so you are very famous here, but I will introduce you anyway, from the Swedish Film Institute. And so happy that Lajla also has joined us. And your title is Managing Director for the International Sámi Film Institute. 6 words in the title. Welcome, everybody. Please welcome the panelists.
Thank you.
And when we were thinking about a diversity session, so as you know, diversity is a very diverse word. It can be about gender, it can be about ethnicity, it can be about sexual orientation, about age, you name it. And so it should be, because diversity, we have to go deeper and deeper and also more diverse into the concept of diversity. But we decided that we will talk about culture roots, ethnicity in the Nordic film, because that's something, a lot of things are happening around and should happen, and more should happen. And this is what we will look at today, what should happen, but also some very nice and positive examples on things happening just now. But let's start with Anne, because we want first to have a round about where were you born, and please, geography, but also rural background or what sort of place?
Well, I was born actually by the coast in East Finnmark in Vatsö, because my mother is from there. But I am grown up in Gaudegeino, which is, of course, in our opinion, who have grown up there, it's the heart of Sámi. It's a small village on the middle of the tundra in northern Norway. So that's my home place, and that's where I am also based today. And the Film Institute is there also. Yeah.
Thank you, Anne. And Helen, you were born in Sweden, or?
Yes, I was born in Dalarna, Dalecarlia, like the province of the red wooden horses, and then maybe some know. And quite small town, working class town, where you should go to the mill of the school. But I was the black sheep, going into arts.
Okay. So, Silje.
So the first urban representative, I'm born and raised in Oslo, and I remember growing up feeling deeply envious of my West Coast family on my mother's side, because I felt that they had roots. They were like real Norwegian, speaking a lovely Hardangermål, and I felt nondescript being a city person from this suburban sort of outskirts of eastern Oslo place, which didn't have the kind of value that you would find in an outdoor museum showing houses like Norway used to be. So I had this sort of identity crisis pretty early on, but I'm an Oslo girl.
Okay. Thank you. Elise?
Yes, does it work? Yes. Well, I'm born in Guatemala City. There is much more bigger than Norway. Actually, it's like 5-6 million just in the city. So I think maybe I'm the most urban of all of you guys. Yes, actually. I'm half indigenous. My father is Cachiquel from San Juan Zacatepeques, and I came to Norway because I had to leave my country in 2007. And well, I'm a filmmaker by accident because I could not speak English and I had to learn Norwegian, and it was the only thing to do was to make movies. It was a guy that told me, you are going to become a filmmaker, and now I'm working as a producer. And I'm a writer by accident too. I just writing movies to help my directors and editing movies because I want to help my directors. It's not a choice. Yes.
Thank you. And Hamy, so your birthplace and what happened then?
I was born in Iran, and there was this Iran-Iraq war for a very long time, and we escaped, and we didn't know where we were going, and by accident we ended up in Finland, and I was 10 years old when we came to Finland, and if I remember correctly, I'm 42 now. So it's sometimes you don't actually realize that you are different. You know, it's just, yeah, I am a refugee, I guess. So for me, it was a long journey to understand, like, I'm not Iranian, I'm not Finnish, I'm Hamy Ramezan, and that's it, you know. So all this diversity is always like, oh yeah.
Yeah, trying to be a whole person. Yes.
Yeah.
And I was actually born in a very rural place in Finland called Närpes. And the Swedish, they speak there, so it's part of Swedish-speaking Finland. No Swede understands, because that's a really old Nordic dialect. But when I went to Iceland, we could share some sentences. So. And this is also interesting, you know, that some countries are bilingual from start, and we of course have learned the Sámi languages. So we are like trilingual from start. So we should be really ready also to open up to many cultures. I just want to mention one example. My father, who never went to school and learned Finnish, he was actually stopped when he was leaving his small village and he was going to Helsinki to see the big world by police. And he didn't speak Finnish. And then they asked for his passport. And they saw he has a Finnish passport. And he got arrested because they thought, the police, that he was making fun of them. But he honestly couldn't speak it. And this is also an example for Finland, how late we have had any immigration, people with other languages. So you are so welcome to Finland, Hamy.
Thank you so much.
And now when we look at the Nordic films today and from a diversity point of view, we can all say how proud the film world also is that there are some steps taken. And I'm thinking, for example, like in Cannes, when we had entries, for example, from Sweden, when you have Clara Sola, and that was something that is an example, of course, of diversity, but the most important thing, a film that really travels and interests the world. Is there anything from the Film Institute that you would comment on Clara Sola and by Nathalie Alvarez Messén, who unfortunately couldn't join the panel, but who is an example also of like really going through the barriers?
Well, of course, it's a fantastic film. It's very strong. I really, for those of you who haven't been able to see it, I really encourage you to see it and just be embraced. It's a beautiful film, very strong, I think. But I know both Nima, the producer, and Natalie, they had so tough times financing it for so many years. They have been to so many labs, so many different knocking on so many doors. So because I was not the commissioning editor for that film, but I remember because we have a talent scheme called Wildcard, and Natalie applied for that after she graduated from Columbia in the States. And she was so happy after receiving that grant. It's like 400,000 Swedish crowns, 40,000 euros, on a flat table, one knock, and you get support for next film. So she said, finally, instead of 5-6 years, as with Clara Sola, developing and financing hell, finally someone just said, go for it, we trust you, we believe in you, we'd love to see your next movie. And I think that is something we have to think about, we being the money bags, that because you can lose your vision for 5-6 years. It's very, very tough for new voices or topics that maybe is not so easy to understand sometimes because we are stupid in our heads. So you know, it's really, I really, they have been so tough and brave, and they really, how do you say, protected their vision, and then you can go the whole way to Cannes.
And is it a problem if a film takes place in Costa Rica, if the language is not Swedish? How does it affect decisions?
Well, they got the support,
so in this case,
so
great.
Just beautiful voice, strong voice, but tough as always. It's always a threshold.
Yeah, and Finland was very proud also of in Cannes and elsewhere to have Gravedigger's Wife by Kadar Aiderus Ahmed, which is taking place in Somalia. And now I look at Emilia, not yet Hamy, because we will come to you, but you have been working and are working to finance, and you have also written short films that takes place in Guatemala, and which brings a lot of new light and color and things to our Nordic culture. What is your experience? Because you can talk now both as a writer and a producer when you try to get directors and the rest of the creative, diverse crew to go through the financing tunnel.
Wow, for a question.
Long question.
Well, it's always a big journey with every single movie. And I work a lot with Sámi content. Where I'm shooting a musical next year. And I'm working with a TV show as well that is going quite well. And with the short, it has been difficult, but they became really beautiful, both of them. The one from Guatemala was extremely important for me because he was an indigenous director with no education that can almost not speak Spanish, with a really strong vision, no film school. And I really believe in him. So I just have to manage to get the support some way. And it was a really long journey. And the same with another short film I produced. Both these shorts were contender to an Oscar nomination. It was a really long journey because nobody understood the script, right, Anna Lajla? Nobody understood anything about what they wanted to do. But I did, and I kind of managed, after many conversations and coffee talks with the commissioner, to understand that it was great.
Yeah,
yes.
and we will see. Thank you, because to really show something also from your past, very not very long over, from 2019, the short film, and excuse my pronunciation. How do you say it? Liremu Baran. How do you say it?
Liremu Barana.
Once again.
Liremu Barana.
Liremu Barana.
Yeah.
And the director Kai Koyok Kah. There we go. We have a lot to learn. You have to learn our languages. We have to learn more about the world. So let's see a short clip from this teaser. Should be sound. And here we could see Soul of the Sea. If we stay a little bit in your story still, and because you are double educated, you have got film education in Havana and in Lillehammer. Yes. So you can actually also talk to us from a student's point of view, because getting diversity into educations and more students from all over entering our film school, that's also an important thing. And you were out of film school 5 years ago.
Yes.
So it's not that too long. So tell us a little bit about this double identity, also from a film student's point of view.
Well, I went to the National Film School of Norway. It's in Lillehammer, and it's quite a traditional way of making cinema. Really hard, really tough. I love the people there. A lot of Danish I could not understand, but that's okay. And after that, I really wanted to. I was missing a lot of this Latin American cinema, my part of the world. I was finding myself quite alone in the film school. My exam had a student Oscar nomination. I was working in Mer Film, and I just find out, okay, the National Film School of Cuba has this focus of poor cinema, emerging countries, and they have made lovely movies. The film school in Havana is the main film school in the whole continent. So I really wanted to go there. And I was really surprised because the master degree in Havana is not being there reading books, is having a project, and they are kind of helping you to find your voice as a producer. So I was there just some weeks during the year, learning how to make movie with nothing, how is to make movies in Guatemala that is a completely mess. And learning how to thinking with a producer, like, okay, we are actually making a movie with a video camera for the 90s that maybe doesn't work. We don't have internet, we don't have mobile, anything is more about passion. And it was really important because I think that school, and with the combination of Lillehammer, I learned a lot, so I could help this director to write, and I was editing the movie as well. So I have all these tools, but in Havana I was learning how to make emerging cinema.
So you have a double vision also from an educational point of view, which is great. And I'm thinking, Hamy, also about you, you came to Finland when you were 9 years old, but you decided to study film in London. Why is that?
Well, I didn't get into film studies in Finland. There are very hard questions. What sauna means to you? I don't know. It's hot place. And I can't see you in Finnish film industry. And so, but in UK there was not such questions. You know, you could do any film you like, and you could, because there are so many universities that you can actually go study drama, you know, and not shooting people. So just I didn't get in, and I was prepared that I won't get in, and that I went to UK, and I think it was a really good decision because it's such a prestigious school in Finland that, especially if you're a young guy, you know, you all of a sudden think you're a god, and you forget about storytelling, and there's quite a bit of money, so just a little bit too technical. So the first film we made in UK was 500 pounds, and so you had to really concentrate in storytelling. So that's how I ended up in UK.
Yeah, but we will go on and talk about the film, your film, which is shown here, and also why. But first, from the Institute's point of view, do you have, because we now talk a little bit about film education, and we know you three are all very devoted to work for more diversity in the Nordic films. Do you also collaborate with the film education system, and how?
Yeah, well, from the Sámi perspective, we have from the very beginning had been focusing on education, and we have done many collaborations with the Sámi University College in Gothenburg, and we did a producer's education in 2014 and collaborated with filmmakers in Gothenburg. And now we have also been collaborating to do a documentary education in the Sámi University College. So, yeah, it's been very important to us.
Something is happening, there is collaboration. What should happen? Silje has already the microphone, so
Well,
Please.
just wanted to add from the Danish perspective that there has always been a very close relationship between the Danish Film School and the Danish Film Institute. For good and for bad, I would say, because these are established structures. Both our institutions are. So in the case that the film school is really working and is a vibrant place and has diversity at the core of their activities, it will probably move on in the system. But if it's not the case, then you need someone to shake it up. And it's quite interesting that there is a new dean at the Danish Film School. There have been, of course, successful and very, very skilled deans before, but the new one is the former head of CPH Docs, which is a festival, or the whole festival organizations for festivals in Copenhagen. And you are probably familiar with their take on diversity, and not least integrating film into society and trying to say that film can be a force in society. Documentaries can, but also storytelling can, and they have been doing such a tremendous job there. So that Tine Fischer is now the dean of the Danish Film School, taking this view into like the establishment of film in Denmark. I think that's fabulous.
Is there something, before you leave the mic, that you think that now should happen in the Nordics? You also have a very, very good view of Norway as well as of Denmark concerning diversity and entrances to film school, because it's a big process to apply, of course, to a national film school if you come from something else. Your experience, it's some time ago already, but maybe there are...
I actually applied again for my MA and I didn't get in.
Still you have no success. So is there something that should be done, or what are you discussing, you know?
Many things should still be done. And if I may be very concrete and specific, just to make an example, the very accomplished Norwegian director Hisham Saman was educated as one of the first from the Norwegian Film School. He is now, as far as I know, still there. He's working educating new directors. Having people like Hisham with his Kurdish background, having decision makers that don't all look like Helen and I do. I think that's one of the new, because there are thresholds, there are structures, some of them are visible, some of them are invisible. There's also a lot of goodwill, and there's a push in contemporary culture for diversity, also in the global market, that is helping us. But I think that the next step is looking at decision makers, looking at what sorts of thresholds do you have, how do you recruit, when do you start recruiting? And that has been a question when it also comes to gender balance, which is also a question very close to my heart. When if you have the European Film College in Denmark, if you only have, like they did in their brochures and in their postcards and on their website, there were boys with clappers, there were boys with cameras. They had this image of who's a DOP, who's a director, that they made. And then the dean at the time, who is now heading the new Danish Screen, which is a talent development scheme within the Danish Film Institute, she was a dean there. She looked at these brochures and she said, what the heck? Which girl, aged 14, living in Jutland, will picture herself with that huge guy with the camera and the battery pack? I mean, we need to change the image of what is a director. And they did. And actually, the interest from girls grew. They had more to choose from. And this is, I mean, it's so simple, just changing the face of a brochure. And there are... Surely we have more difficult things to do as well, but why not start with the brochure? And so there are many things to do, and I think we need to recruit differently into the business on many levels, also in the institutes.
Yes, and I think this is, we will see a clip from Hamy's film, but Helen, you want to add something to Silje said, because we will come back also to the structural changes that need to be done, and as you said, on decision-making level. But Helen, please.
Yeah, I think it's very exciting times right now on a industry perspective, because I think I'm very hopeful, because I don't think it's only the Film Institute that has to... It's such a big movement now after Black Lives Matter, after Me Too, after everything. It's like we have the streamers, we have the... If you don't have a fresh, a modern... both behind or in front of the camera, you're not interesting for the audience today. It's actually a selling point today. It's something I'm so happy. It's not like you have to. It's not uphill now. It's we can. There's another.
There's a fighting ground. All fights are not won, but it's happening. And now I just want to take a very like culture and content point of view, because when I saw Hamy's film Any Day Now, which in Finnish, by the way, is First Snow, but this was also a cultural problem, because we in the Nordics know what the first snow is that melts, but the distributor thought it won't be understood worldwide, so it's Any Day Now in English. I thought, oh, finally, I have seen so many Finnish films about families, and it's mostly dark, and there are like big like sociological problems and bad family dynamics, and people are not always so nice to each other. And you have brought a fantastic, serious theme in your film, but a film full of light and people who like each other, which is, I think it's you bring something new to the Finnish narration. I don't know if you knew this, but those of you who haven't seen the film, it opened in Berlinale, and yesterday was announced that it is one of our 5 candidates for the Nordic Council Film Prize. So a little bit congratulations here to Hamy now in the
Thank you.
And I think we should see the trailer, but first, did you understand what you brought to the Finnish audience together with your co-writer Antti Rautamo?
Maybe not for the Finnish audience, but the film itself, it took such a long time. And I have to be honest, you know, I started telling a story, and I ended up trying to search for truth in traumas and, you know, blood and all the violence that we saw. And even though it was all real experience and you wrote it, it wasn't true cinema. In cinematic truth, it wasn't, even the experience was there, but I was like, no, it didn't feel like that. And just realizing that you don't find truth in trauma, which brought all the characters to life. So you weren't like this god who pushes them to, you know, this political film about how bad asylum seeker situation is in Finland. Just actually ignore them, you know, the whole political issue. Just turn your camera and see this just beautiful family who are together and just trying to survive a situation they are in.
Yeah, and the structural problems will come as they do in this film. Let's have a glimpse of Any Day Now.
1, 2, 3.
Moi, mä oon Ramin Mehdipor ja mä oon 13-vuotias. زندگی خانواده مهدیپور رو کافی نمی‌دانند و اونا رو دارای شرایط پناهندگی تشخیص نمیدن. نوشته اگه اعتراض داریم میتونیم بریم دادگاه درخواست تجدید نظر بدیم.
خب پس یعنی یه فرصت دیگه داریم دیگه.
آره. Mikä sitä oikein vaivaa?
Ei mitään haju.
صحبت کردن با یه دختر چطور باید شروع کنم؟
رازش فقط همینه. لازم نیست چیزی بگی. فقط تو چشماش نگاه میکنی، بهش لبخند میزنی.
And it's produced by Aamu,
Yes.
the film company who has had big success also in Cannes with Juho Koosmanen's film, whom we could see here yesterday, Compartment Number 6. You said you don't want to talk about financing, and you don't need to be an expert on it, but for you as a filmmaker, and coming up with the original story. Your road to having it done, is there something you would like to share with us?
Well, maybe not with this film, but because I came from UK and I didn't know anyone from Finnish film industry, not filmmakers or the institution itself, you know, like funders. There was this great project, short film project, which was 28 minutes. It was a little bit like competition where you had to write 28-minute film. And before you can commit to competition, you actually had to find a producer that if you win, they will produce it. So I got to know the producers, and in the same time, it was funded by AVEC and Finnish Film Foundation, YLE. So I got, when we got, you know, in the next level, then you get to know the financiers. So I was pretty lucky in that way that after that kind of the funders know you, and it was so much easier to just, you know, do your next film. Because before that, as I said, you know, when you make a film with £500, it's like you see that the story is good, but it's still £500. So there's a little bit dodgy, like, do he know what he's doing? And the money is pretty big anyways, 170,000. So, but, you know, I got lucky. And with this film, it was more just being ready for yourself. You know, Jussi is, you know, the producer was, you know, when I was doing these dark stories, and was like, do you see this the way you see the world? And in the same time, Kiarostami passed away, and you know, there was these signs that Kiarostami knew where his friend's home, and you're like, I just want to do differently, you know, just change the point of view, forget about refugees, because you just say asylum seeker, you already know everything about it. It's just war, hunger. So you just, you know, that emotional truth about what happened.
And I see it because I was talking about very selfishly from my Finnish point of view that you renewed the Finnish film family for me, but you also wanted to renew the concept of refugee films.
Yes.
So bringing new light to that. So that's very interesting. And also what you said, that there was a concrete project that actually helped you. Like Silje said, it can be concrete small steps that you change the pictures in the film school brochure. And it can be like this. And Helen has some other steps.
No, I just want to hook on what your story, because I think it's so important to have these calling cards. You really need these films, the short films or the mid-length films, that you can really show your own voice, so you can have a fair chance. And I think all what we can think of is initiatives, or like at the Swedish Film Institute, we have done a lot of research and just released this Talent to Watch because of the COVID. We got CRISE money from the culture department, and it's actually 50 million Swedish crowns for new voices over 3 years. So it's substantial, 50 million Swedish crowns. And it's called Talent to Watch, and it's my dear colleague Elina Norberg Johansson who runs it. So if anyone wants to know more, she's waiting for your call. But I think you need... And it will benefit for so many shorts from new voices, so they can do films, actually do films, not talk about diversity, do films. Yes, and we heard here also the good news from Norwegian Film Institute that there is a money reserved 4.5 million Norwegian crowns for diversity projects. And Silje actually has very kindly sent me very interesting statistics and researches from the Danish Film Institute, where I think it's so good to see, because we all countries have good gender research. And Anne, who told that was it last year, you have 70% directors were female, that things are really changing fast. But Silje, the very logical thing coming after the 50-50 gender discussion now that you have in the Danish Film Institute, that you have a term called New Danes, Nya Danskar, that they are 10% of the inhabitants in Denmark.
but the same representation percentage is not in films, and you are really looking thoroughly into this. So I don't know if you want to continue on this, because you had the mic before I started to talk, so please.
Yes, absolutely. Because we have different strategies, not only at the Danish Film Institute, but we are uniting with the whole film business. That has been an important point, both in the strategical work that is being done when it comes to diversity, like getting a higher representation or a more society-like representation of ethnic minorities, for instance. We cooperate with the whole business, with the producers, the film workers associations. We discuss this in the media because we believe it will come out of a joint effort. And one of the suggestions that were made early on was that, well, we need facts. We also believe in that in Eurimatch, which is the Council of Europe top financing fund for film, where both Helen and I are. We believe in statistics and facts. And I've been saying so many times today is that your anecdotal evidence of knowing the names of Lone Skjerfig and Susanne Bier doesn't prove that we don't have a structural problem with gender imbalance. It's sort of like, yeah, but there are so many great women, or even like, you know, the male producers, like, I love women. And it's like, okay, nice for you. This is not going to solve our structural problem. So we've had a very structural approach in Denmark. And now I'm saying we, although I also have experience from Norway with what we did in Norway. But in Denmark, when we started doing statistics, it just springs in your eyes. Because ethnic minorities are underrepresented in Danish films. Obviously. We know this. We have 2 reports, 2016, 2018. We're going to make a new one. And then statistics also has their limits, because who is labeled, if you can call it that, as a new Dane? Are you interested in being a new Dane? I mean, perhaps you're not. Perhaps it doesn't suit you. Perhaps it's not the right thing to do. Yeah. And also, who do we count? Because if I look at the projects that I'm working with at the moment as a commissioner, and some of the production supports I gave, I would see like roughly 1/3 of the directors and writers I'm working with have non-majority Danish backgrounds. But they are not necessarily in statistics, because if your mother is Turkish-Danish, but she's born in Denmark, then you are a Dane. Yeah. Full stop. And you're not in the statistics. So statistics can help us in some cases, but we should not just get married with the statistics, and we should not think that all solutions are there. And I think we should, in general, be more open and try to be more open to the invisible structures. I think we also need statistics, but you are right. The statistics has to be really analyzed. What do they mean? What is behind the numbers in the statistics? And they can be interpreted in so many ways. Anne will have the next. You will have a possibility to say something before we show something. Which, sorry, Silje, more statistics. We will come back to statistics, but Anne first.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what also Silje was talking about here, and what you mentioned about diversity being such in focus in the film business as in many other businesses globally, which is of course amazing for us, because we are the diversity. And but what we see as a big challenge, as an example, for example, now the Norwegian Ministry of Culture gave 4.5 million to Norwegian Film Institute to work with diversity. And so my question is, where are the diverse voices in you know, for example, the Sámi Film Institute? Why don't we have that big money to support our filmmakers? Because we have so many great talents who are working, who have taken the step into bigger productions. We have many who are working on feature films, series, and when they apply, many times they are rejected. So that's of course very good that now everyone is talking about diversity, but what we need is commitment, and we need access to the big money as everybody else, and those structures has to be taken down if we are going to get other voices. But you also have a very good example, because we must come back to concrete actions, and your cooperation with NRK, the public service company in Norway.
Because there you have a special reservation, and that will mean there is a production.
Yes, and that's I have been on the neck of the head of drama, Ivar Köhn, for many, many years, and nagging about that we need a Sámi drama series in the Nordic, because that has never been done from the Sámi within perspective. So in 2019, the NRK head of drama and all the big directors there committed 100 million kroners to Sámi drama series, and we have now several amazing projects in development. So that's what my point, that also when it comes to the film institutes and other funders, you have to commit the big money for the other voices and see and open the doors for other kind of stories.
I will leave the Finnish statistics for later, because now when we were discussing the acts and the actions and the resilience of the work you do, I think let's stay with the Sámi theme and introduce a project that you are working on, because your work is very global. You are working with indigenous people from all over. So if you could open it and introduce the horror project that you are working with.
Yeah. Well, it's true. We have, since from the very beginning in 2009, we have been building network with our indigenous sisters and brothers around the world, and especially in the circumpolar Arctic perspective. And we are doing now, in collaboration with Canada, Greenland, Yakutia in Siberia, and Sámi, and also funders like Canada Media Fund, Telefilm Canada, especially Canada is very strongly involved in the financing. So it's called Arctic Chills. It's an anthology of 6 short films from all across the Arctic, and indigenous horror and mythical stories. And the first one goes into production this autumn in October. It's fully financed. 5 films. Post-production will be in Canada.
Yeah, and we have a mood reel. Hamy was saying that you ended up not using blood, but they use blood. So let's look at some beautiful landscape and some blood as a mood teaser.
Musa juoka me mä fähtä muistuli. Una unikkaangua siellä.
Onko nyt pyössä saapua? Sen pisoappu.
Kappia naktata hamman. Tuli juoka millä tahpa uppomen. Mä olen palussa.
Sivu.
Sillä rama.
And Annie told how you have been talking for long with Ivar Köhn from NRK Drama, the head of drama there, but you are not stopping at the national broadcasters, because I know you can't reveal too much, but you have also discussions with global streaming services ongoing. And you said that to know how to deal with them when you come from a smaller culture than these business guys, you actually get help from your Arctic friends. So could you, if you put in place like concrete projects, you are driving them, at the same time you are strengthening your structures as a negotiator on an international level. Is this something you could teach everybody here in the room of our next steps?
Yeah, it's true. We are working globally and we are thinking globally, and I think it's in our backbones, because the Sámi people, we are borderless. We are living in 4 countries, so we don't have those borders in our minds, and maybe that's one reason for our way of thinking borderless. Yeah, it is. For us, it has been really important, the circumpolar Arctic perspective especially. So everyone is looking to the north with climate change and industrialization, the mining companies, a lot of pressure for in our homelands in Sámi. We have now in Riehpavuotna, there is a big resistance going on there now with that case. So everyone is looking to the Arctic, and these are our homelands, and we truly believe that we need a voice in this development. So that's also why we have set up the Arctic Indigenous Film Fund with partners in Canada, in Russia, in Greenland, and here in the Nordics. So yeah, just go for it.
Yeah, and you know, I would never have believed that if we are having a Nordic discussion on diversity, that I would suggest that we watch a trailer from Disney. But this will happen. We will check it. And the reason is that you also had a good discussion with the Disney company. And this was actually a case study on this in Cannes, where you and Disney discussed your cooperation. So we can't send clips from that discussion because we don't have the rights to it, but could you please just tell us, how did you manage to deal with them and have them listen to you? And then we will see a clip from Frozen, or a trailer from Frozen 2 with Sámi language, because it's also very important that we get films in our own languages. Yeah. So.
Well, of course, when the first Frozen film came, all of us in the Sámi community, we recognized this one character, Kristoff, with the Sámi-inspired clothing. And so when we heard that Disney came back to Sámi, they were traveling in 2016 doing research, meeting with a lot of Sámi people, and then it was the politicians, Sámi Parliament, and also the Sámi Council who wrote this official invitation to Disney and said that we know you are working on a sequel to Frozen, and we want to collaborate if you are going to be inspired by our culture. So that's the beginning of the story. And I was leader of the Sámi advisory group, Vertet, and we were working really close with the filmmakers, and they visited us and we visited them twice in Burbank in their studios, and it was a really interesting collaboration, and we really felt that they wanted to do it right. They didn't want to make any big mistakes. So, for example, when it came to the clothing, when we came into the project, they had already designed this, the clothing for the North Hallreda Sámi-inspired people in the story, which was a mishmash of different indigenous clothing from all across the Arctic, some Inuit and some from Russia and some Sámi, and we said, it was really difficult. And we said that, you can't really do this. This is not okay. So we said, so now you have this collaboration with us, the Sámi, and we have a very good agreement which benefits not only Disney but also us. So you should instead lean into the Sámi culture instead of making this. Yeah, and so then the filmmakers changed the whole way of all the characters, how they were dressed. So that was a very concrete example of they went really far to do it right, and it was
to get the more authentic representation.
Yes.
And representation is a very important theme also in the diversity discussion.
Sorry for interrupting
No.
Lajla. I'm just super curious because the distinction between the cultural appropriation that they were doing when they made the mishmash and the result which lies in Frost 2 is understanding for culture and listening, and then it's okay that they sort of take cultural heritage and put it in a Disney film.
Well, of course, that was never an easy task. For example, in our advisory group, we were talking about it. Do we really have the right to, give away our traditional dresses, but because it's not individually owned, it's our cultural, collectively owned by all Sámi people, and so it was not just easy. But then we had this very good agreement with them, so we got something back, like the dubbed version to the Sámi language, and also some learning opportunities later when the production was done. And we also have later, after the collaboration with Frozen, we have done this Pathfinder guidelines for responsible filmmaking with the Sámi people. So, and the main word is collaboration and collaboration with.
But can I ask you, because this is the representation is a very interesting topic. That who can represent whom, and who can tell whose stories, and who has the right to tell what story. So I want to ask, all of you, that when is it good to protect it, and can it be overprotected? Because this is the discussion. How should you protect? For example, for Hamy, you are the only one who could have told the story that you told. And also Elisa, from your point of view, the representation, because you have two cultures in your mind, but I'm sure you also want to make films which has nothing to do with your roots. So this is for two-folded questions about representation. Well,
I can just say my experience from my country. I'm coming from a really poor country. We don't have so much cinema, and 60% of the population are First Nations. We are 22 different people, so it's very different, culturally speaking. But we have this tradition of people from United States or Europe coming to make movies. And sometimes they're bringing Mexican white actors to play indigenous. Yeah. So I'm used to see this kind of movies, and it's really disgusting when you grow up seeing and it's the same with a lot of movies in First Nation language. There are just the subtitles is something totally else than what the people are saying. So it's just the extreme example of colonization of a culture, a cinema culture, because it's so important to see yourself. So I really, for me as a producer, it's really important to give a voice to these people and how it is being yourself and seeing yourself. And it's not just so easy to come and see and bring up blonde Mexican actress to play an indigenous woman, and you can hear it. I have always been shocked seeing these movies in Berlin or Cannes, etc., especially regarding First Nation. So for me, it's listening to the people, the trust, the respect, the collaboration, giving the voice to, I don't want to say minorities, but the people that doesn't have the power to tell their stories in many years. But we need to give them the power back so we can see new quality, new movies, so we can learn from that, and then we can make movies together. And it's important to collaborate, right?
Yeah, and we have seen many examples, for example, of the Sámi community where it's only the cliches of Lapland and the Midnight Sun, etc., etc. So this is really good and important discussion. Let's go on with it, but let's listen to some beautiful Sámi language.
Tjärvästä. Keuni. Oh, Elsa!
Olaf, han är bara så chill. Lehkostal. Tahmanna buuris. Seahkanan vaivis. Lego Elsa äärestettu mielessä.
Orui, nummo läve.
Kuulan hieno. on kullanjena. Pakkorehke varai!
Man on mekkaraike! Haarendel hilehoatjebas.
Disney almuha.
Kauna sinkä churuot, siis soihtu vastatusat. Manne tavas, keitoju luuttijala, tohkokos amas vuoretaa.
Lohpitahte tahkitaan farrolaga.
Lehke varrokasat, voinnat, kaltaitet chalat haastalit.
Huittaa palas. Tanjaki.
Kehti lehpeet.
Monlen Olaf.
Joo, alas monta lenkaan.
Ota vastatusait.
Muuten sormunuita. Kielä. Mä tiedän ipedivtsen.
Rahkan kelttolas färanitta.
Oi, jähtänä saat. Tuorat.
Alle fall huikee.
Keitun keasuha ja tuhakas vaihtas on olla lahpot.
Mun luohtandut ne, en puhu oktigi ääräjälsä. Jos oktagi sahta katso arendella, teillä toon.
Disney jion kokte.
Muutti pirkahalla pehtit vattis ja imaslas jurta kiikkun tanakis. Alle on juo, nyt on tiedä maik mulleen tule mun.
Chajuhuvo farka.
Okay. So now we will go to the structures when wrapping up the discussion. We have many wonderful examples and angles to the discussion. But what should actually be like the concrete next steps? And for the Nordisk Film TV Fond, it is really important to see if there is anything from a pan-Nordic point of view that we also could take part in and be help the things happening together with all of you. So this is why we want to have now like very next steps that should be taken, that discussion. Before that, I want to show Knut Erik the Maria Pirkkalainen, because this is the session is part of something that is called Audiovisual Collaboration 2021. It's a project between the fund and the Nordic Council of Ministers and the Finnish Culture Minister, because Finland is the chair of the Nordic Council of Ministers. And the whole idea has been that through a lot of festivals during the year and in direct discussions with EU also that we arrange, have filmmakers meet decision makers. So now you can be the filmmakers and you can be the decision makers, and anybody can raise their hand and say something. I will repeat the question or comment because this is filmed and you don't have microphones because they are all here. But I will hear you and repeat the question. So one other festival that we are working together is the Finnish Film Festival, and we will in September, 24th of September, have a session on sustainability. Maria Pirkkalainen just wanted to say hello, and because I know also that Hamy doesn't want to talk about Finnish statistics, so she tells about the research that was made on representation in Finland and what the percentage is. I will say this is like 2 years ago, before your film was made or before Gravedigger's Wife, and I'm sure these two films have made the statistics so much better. So that is like in a country with not so many films produced, a couple of films changes it. But let's listen to Maria Pirkkalainen's greeting from Helsinki.
I was kindly asked to tell you a few quick words about the work we do here in Helsinki, as the theme of representation is something that we take into consideration every year in our panel program and are continuing with it in only a month's time when the 10th Finnish Film Fair will take place. As part of our diversity initiatives, last year we offered a platform for the launch of crucially important statistical research on the lack of representation in the casting of Finnish fiction films and TV shows that premiered in 2019. The study was done by the students of Metropolia Film School, especially Milja Nieminen, and commissioned by Audiovisual Producers Finland, who we are partnering with again for this year's panel discussion. Out of the many facts worth mentioning from this study, here are a few. Only 2 years ago, over 90% of all the characters in Finnish fiction films or TV shows were white, heterosexual, non-disabled cis characters. The 16 films that were researched had altogether 338 roles. Out of these roles, only 18 represented an ethnic minority, meaning in this context, a non-white person or person belonging to a racialized ethnic minority here in Finland. And only 3 of these 18 actors were in a leading role. And none of the characters in either films or TV shows in 2019 were of Sámi background. After sharing these stats with our audience last September, a panel discussed what this tells about whose voices are heard in Finland and how we can genuinely start changing this on screen. This year, we'll be continuing on the subject again by announcing the results from the same statistic, focusing now on films and TV shows that premiered in 2020 and whether there has been any change. It will be followed by a panel discussion where we will be looking for concrete actions with real impact and asking international experts for advice on how we can continue developing representation, both on-screen and off-screen in Finland.
Thank you, Maria. So I will start with the filmmakers. If you have a chance now, you have decision makers, and as Silja said earlier, not all decision makers should look like you and Helen, who sit on money bags. That is one structural suggestion you already came up with, but we can continue on that. And Hamy, during this discussion or earlier, working for your film, trying to push it through your films, anything that you would like to say that please change this?
I guess it's just it's very personal because you know, my problem is always, or challenge is, a representation of others. Because, for example, in this film you have refugees, but then again, for example, the first film I told you about that I got funded, and that was how I got in. You know, producers, because I wrote it a Finnish main character, and the producers were like, you should have him, you know, from somewhere else. You had more chances. Okay, so you know, yeah. It's just, you know, playing the game, and then it brings conflicts between filmmakers. You know, some people coming, yeah, but because you are this minority, that's why you get the fund, and you're like, oh, maybe I just don't make good films. Maybe just. So right now, when you try to make a subject matters that are Finnish, then you know you might very much get like negative decision. That, and for me, it's I just want to be a filmmaker, yeah, among the others, and just the story to be effective, not like a political reasons or the representation. So it's two-headed, you know.
Yeah, and this the two-folded, which I was thinking about, that there is this risk for representation, that you are put like in this box where you should make films with which has mangfold or diversity in each film as a theme. So you should actually just want to say I'm a filmmaker, and you can make film about anything.
For me, you know, it would be easier not to think that. Because it would force me to choose my subject matters, to somehow deal with diversity, even if I wouldn't want to do that. I believe that the subject matter and the way you tell the story and what's happening around the world, what is, you know, good story. And yes, there are a lot of challenges that might not be seen, you know. For example, in our film, the mother, we chose her from Iran, and we had these Islamic rules, and I chose to, because I wanted Iranian actress, not from Europe, just because I don't want her to use scarf. So it's so complex that it would be just much nicer to be a filmmaker among others. But of course, I understand very much, you know, the other point of views as well.
That's a good point. Elise, what's your reaction or comment?
It's working again, yes. Well, this is especially for the Norwegian Film Institute, Swedish Film Institute, and Denmark, not for you, Anna Lajla. It's just to trust more in people and to dare to take a risk. And I mean, not all the filmmakers can do the same travel as the directors we have established now. Not all of them can make this great short film that's going to Cannes and then they are going to make a debut first feature. And it's the same with the script. I read a lot of scripts of Latin America and other countries. I'm co-producing with Mozambique this year and Colombia. One from Lithuania as well. I have a lot of international projects actually. But you see that the people, this is the great thing with cinema. All of them write in a different way. It's a different way of structure, of different way of visuals. It doesn't need to be exactly the same kind of script, the dialogue. I mean, I can feel a Nordic movie when I started reading the script. I don't need to see the name of the director. The same with the Latin American one, the same from Spain, Italy. I can feel where they're coming from. But I don't want to put these filmmakers in the box I learned at the Norwegian Film School. This is the right recipe to make the cake, because we don't want just to eat the same kind of cake, right? We want many different ones. Yes, I love cakes.
That's great. Silje, please.
Some of the co-productions that you mentioned, Elisa, that you're working on have been supported by the Norwegian Sør Fond, which is the kind of initiative which I think is one of the possible solutions, that we lift our eyes, that we look more on the world, that we cooperate with the world. At the time when I was president of the Films from the South Festival in Oslo, which is Oslo's biggest festival, although it doesn't screen any Anglo-American or European films, we established this fund together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Norwegian Film Institute. And there seemed to be sort of a misunderstanding or just some nice thoughts in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that now we can give some aid to these poor countries who don't know how to make film. I was like, no, it's the other way around. The aid, the artistic aid, is coming from countries on the so-called DAC list. They have storytellers, they have filmmakers who frequently go to the aid festivals that Norwegians for a period of time had problem penetrating. They were not at these festivals. There were filmmakers who needed money and some producer capacities that Norway could offer, and I think it's a lovely cooperation. And if you look out in the market, or if you look in society, or you look in our cultural sphere, this is already happening. The most selling, now we're in a library, I used to work in literature, the most selling fiction book for grown-ups in Norway a couple of years ago was written by Sisran Shakar, who is a Pakistani-Norwegian writer. This year, the Bjørnson Award went to Sara Omar, who is a Danish writer. These books, and her book was also awarded by all the booksellers, which is the most commercial literature prize you have in Denmark. There is a huge interest, and since we do so many surveys at the Danish Film Institute, I just like in closing say that we know that Danes, they tend to prefer to see stories that mirror society and our multicultural reality than they would like to see stories mirroring themselves. They have reported so in surveys that we make, representative surveys of Danish audience. And when you look at there are TV series that are doing incredibly well. Like we have one in Denmark called Sunday, made by a young comedian with African background, about an African soccer player coming to Denmark and he can't really play, and the team figures out a bit late. It's been going for a long time. It has a rating of 10%. It has a viewing share of 10%. Queen's Gambit by Netflix has 9%. We know this because we make these kinds of surveys. So there are so many recipients out there. There are readers. There are people in the audience who would like to see these stories. Come, and Berlinale would like to screen these films. I mean, it's obvious. We just have to follow.
Yeah, the audience is diverse. The audience needs it, and the international doors are open. And there are projects in different Nordic countries and structures that are being made and discussed. And this is very good because we are filming this. So, and this will be put up on the Nordic, on our film or news site, or on our web page, Nordisk Film TV Fond's web page. So we can always come back to this and see all the good suggestions, put them together, and see year by year what is happening. But Helen, what should be happen next? And then it's on. Oh yes, Anne, I just go like ding 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 to be sure everybody. Because this is the crucial, and also shout if I don't see it that you want to say something that in the audience, that everybody says something. What should happen next? Helen has today moderated 19 new co-production suggestions, and among other things, a Sámi horror film, first Sámi horror feature film. So what is your feeling, and what will you do next to help the situation?
Well, and there was also another Sámi project today within the 19 that was really amazing. So thank you, Liselott, for mentioning that. But so I think I feel that's also one of the reasons that I feel quite hopeful, because I am fortunate to read both the new talent projects at the Swedish Film Institute for Moving Sweden, and I also work with the co-production, international co-production, and we get so many interesting projects. We had so many films in Cannes for the international co-production, and also now Toronto looks fabulous in so many perspectives. I totally agree. There's so complex. There's so many levels here. But I want to come back to relevance. I think that's what it all cooks down to: relevant, touching films. And today, there's so many things that is super relevant to speak about, and try to find both the poetic or the horror in all the framing of possibilities of storytelling that is so strong. But I also want to have a concrete advice. There are some really good working opportunities if you like to decide which film dreams that would be made at the Swedish Film Institute right now. So please think of, with all your contacts and all good people, we are hiring a CAO, for example. You could be direktören för det hela, and you can really make a change. Anna Senner has made a lot of change, so we need someone to keep up the good fire after all her years. And we are looking for 2 film commissioners, for example, one for documentary and one for new talent after me. So exciting work. Just apply or encourage people with new perspectives, not looking like me and Silje, to apply. And we are also looking head of film support, that Christina Colliander had after her. So there's actually so many important, fun and difficult works, opportunities within the Swedish Film Institute right now. So apply, encourage good people to apply, and we'll hopefully give more money to you. Over to you.
Yeah. And many openings at the Norwegian Film Institute as well. Many openings at the Norwegian Film Institute. When it comes to recruitment, there are many opportunities at the moment.
Thank you, Silje. And Anne.
Yes, I just want to encourage the Nordic countries to look to Canada when it comes to the work of diversity, because what I feel is the challenge now is that when, for example, the film institutes or whoever wants to do something nice for diversity, or Sámi people, or they put everyone in the same bag, so people, and that, I think that is the first challenge that has to be dealt with, because we are not the same. We have so different backgrounds and challenges. Indigenous has other challenges than, and so that's the first thing to be aware of. And then looking to Canada, what I feel is amazing about what is happening there is how they commit to Indigenous film. For example, Indigenous Screen Office, which can be compared to Sámi Film Institute, they just got 300 million Norwegian kroner to make amazing Indigenous films. And National Film Board of Canada, they are earmarking 15% of their annual budget to Indigenous films. Canada Media Fund is earmarking 7%, and then you are talking about hundreds and hundreds and thousands of millions of kroner every year. So we cannot, as long as it's all the small pennies they throw at us, we cannot tell our own stories. So the big money bags has to be opened to others.
I think this is such a beautiful sentence. The big money bag has to be open. It's now 15 past. We will skip the last trailer, but we will have. It's good to have one comment, so bear with me. We will do that, but just mention Canada, because the Nordic Council of Ministers and the Finnish Culture Minister actually has now a project that involves Canada, and this will be. We will be sure to take this discussion there. Yeah. Please, and please introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah. Something in terms of how we understand the context of filmmaking, because it's super expensive kind of art we are doing, and it's not only supported by the public funding.
Sorry, now you will have a microphone, and you will get the last comment, because otherwise our technical crew will be very unhappy.
Intruding.
So you can take my place.
The thing is, no.
So the camera sees you.
Yes,
so the camera
next time.
You see him. Next time, that's good.
Yeah,
but you can see
some
him.
movies first. The thing is, I'm just trying to say, it's a very expensive form of telling stories, and it's not only depend on public funding. It actually depend on the private sector, and we always discuss this from political and a public funding point of view, and there is no distributors here. There is no sales agents. There is no, people, investors, people actually, you should invite them because they are the problem. It's not the politics, it's not the public funding, but you are serving a kind of a silence riot happening in the private sector. They don't like this. They don't want to have lead actors that are unknown because it's a big risk. You don't get a lot of people in the cinemas, and so on. And it's not true. It doesn't mean it's true. It's just something that is in their head. So you have to start making this conversation broader and inviting that kind of money. And if you're going to do something, try to make incentives. Because I know the market always moves where the money is. So if you actually lock 15%, like you say Canada did, that is 15% of something they want, and then they will move toward that. So you have to actually create incentives. You cannot talk about this in a bubble.
Yeah.
You cannot keep saying there is no application coming in. Yeah, there isn't because producer doesn't find them worthy, or they don't actually understand what they want to develop and get it up and then apply with that production. And just finally, the thing is that I think you say, Elisa, and you say, I'm sorry I didn't get your name, but Ahmed? Hamy, okay. Hamy, it is true because we are more than our identity. And we are actually just filmmakers, and we are good at it. It's not something that has to be proven, but we have to actually get more people here because we are now just hearing one voice from the other side, and we're not including the most important voice.
Yeah, and when you said, thank you very much. And this is important that on one hand we have been saying that international doors are open and it is also a commercial success to be more diverse. And we see, for example, the big company Marvel, who is really changing, old heroes to be more diverse, etc., etc. We know there is also a money issue there. And you said, rightly so, we don't have distributors here. But this session is one step, and within this our audiovisual collaboration, the meaning is that everything said here should continue and deepen this discussion. And actually, we must invite both the distributors and you.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I totally agree with
yeah.
Because the diversity and getting deeper into
yeah.
it would actually include the private money.
Yes.
Then you are actually more diverse in how we can
yeah.
get to the solution. But it shouldn't be about, is this important, is this relevant, and so on. It's about how can we do it.
I think they spoke a lot about the money also here, but you know that it is You're right. Everybody's public.
And structures, this kind of talk is actually just one-sided. It's
not
actually it will not move the mountain that we have to move.
But this is wonderful because when we finish this panel, we start thinking about the next step. and you helped build a little bridge to the next step. Thank you.
We have
Yeah.
to commit
Yeah.
to the future.
Thank you, and an applause to you and the whole panel. So we went a little over time and didn't show a trailer we showed yesterday. So I just want to mention it because we had the film prize, Nordic Council Film Prize nomination yesterday, and we mentioned already that Hamy's Films Any Day now is there. But actually there are 3 films which have cultural crossover. So we had a documentary Flea, which we have the writer-director who is Danish, but co-working with the main character who comes from Afghanistan in a very close collaboration. And then we have the Russian documentarist working together with a Norwegian producer saying he could never have made this film in his homeland. These are also like important diversity steps. And we have 2 beautiful other films too, dealing with trauma in a way that really helps our souls. So like I know we should all just look for more diversity in storytelling and go also to the private side when we continue the discussion. So let's do that. Thank you very much. And should we applaud the audience for staying here so long? Thank you. And I want to thank Knut Erik for excellent technical assistance.